Well, I just seem to get myself in these places. I don't know why. I have to be so controversial. Um, the last week or two has pushed me to a point where I just cannot keep my voice from not speaking out about what is going on in this nation. And I do feel that being spiritual, being spiritual, being the metaphysical new thought, whatever your label is for us, that you're comfortable with, is not for us to sweep under the rug what's going on, but to rise to the occasion of what is going on. I feel that we all must realize that we are playing a part in the transformation that is going on this planet. It's never needed great numbers of people to change things. Never. Even there's a scripture in the Bible that says, by one man's obedience, many were lost. By one man's obedience, many are saved. So you can make a difference. And all of this begins with you, the individual. But when we come together into a community like this, it is amazing. I know that Jesus told them when it was time for the Holy Spirit to enter into our world and be accessible, that he said, I need 120 of you. That's all I need. Don't give me any more. I just want 120 of you to go and sit and wait in this upper room and see what will happen. That was a powerful number because 120 is a 3. 1 plus 2 plus 0 is a 3. And when 3 show up, you know something's getting ready to resurrect. Something's getting ready to go to the next level, to the next dimension. And that 120, of course, on the day of Pentecost, went into that upper room, higher consciousness metaphysically, into a state in which they were at a frequency to receive what was trying to come in. At that time, something was trying to come in, like now something's trying to come in. There's a new presence, a new energy that is attempting to break through into these old models of a third dimensional world that has served its purpose, and now it is not serving that purpose. We live in a different time. Another time, there's another story in which there was a battle called the Battle of Gideon, was called, and the God of Israel was wanting those to come and to deal with this battle. And it said tens of thousands of people showed up. And it said God looked at those tens of thousands of bodies and said, most of you don't need to be here. And he started this process of weaning it down, and finally all was left was 300 out of the tens of thousands of people. Why? Because God said, I need quantity, not quantity, but I need quality. I can do it with quality. And it was that way all along. He was pressed by the multitudes, but he always tried to get off with the few because he realized that quality was greater than quantity. And so let's don't sell ourselves short because we seem to be few bodies compared to, say, evolution has today, or not evolution, but elevation has today, or the big Baptist church down the road that's got thousands of people coming today. God may be looking over that and say, there's only 10 of you that really should be here that's ready to receive what I have to say. So we represent a collective frequency of what we can match to receive what is coming in today. So I hope that makes sense to you. I was moved because this got a little personal with me. It's funny when things get personal with you, once you're separate from it, watching it all play out on television and through the mass media, that's the easy way to do it, and sit in the comfort of your own home and your own life and whatever. But when it touches you, when it touches your family, when it touches you and where you live, it's a different thing. I know that there is things going on today to undo a lot of the liberties that has been afforded parts of our humanity, our national humanity of Americans that has worked a long time to receive the liberty, such as gay marriage and other liberties that have been passed, racism and all the isms that has given certain liberties. I don't know how free we are, but we have liberties. And it's different in liberties and freedom. And when I begin to realize that there is an under subtle program going on to undo gay marriage and gay rights and women's rights, and this is going on in the background. They're getting us to look over here while they do something over here. It's an old trick the magician uses, so the illusion can seem real to you. So that's why it's important to not be drawn and led just by what's going through the media and all of that, but really find your heart in the matters that is upon us and challenging us today. Another thing that I read that disturbed me is 100 transgender people of color have been murdered this year. One of them last week in Florida that was set on fire and burned into a car. They couldn't even recognize that person. And as I've looked into this, I'm realizing there's a lot going on that we're not hearing about, in the sense of people feeling that they need to literally go as far to destroy other people because it's about them. If it wasn't for them, and it wasn't for them, and it wasn't for them, and the ego world is get rid of them because they're the cause of the way you feel. No. Them is showing you what you need to heal in yourself. And by eradicating the Jews and eradicating the gays and eradicating this, that, and another is not the answer to interpersonal transformation. It has to begin within ourselves. And as it begins in ourselves, the world will adjust. The world has always been a projection of what is going on in the inner world inside of ourselves. So this has gotten a little personal to me, and I'm going to step out a little bit. I'm not in any way trying to influence anybody's political ideas or affiliation whatsoever, but I would ask you to allow yourself to rise above all the labels. Liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, whatever label that you most identify with. And I'm sure even those of us that has a label are not fully in agreement with all that that label entails. Yes, so it is, I see as a mature spiritual people and community, it is up to us to really be able to cross boundaries that they've drawn for us and say, if you're this, then you got to be that, and you've got to think this way. That's not true at all. You are the center of your own power in how that you're going to create your relationship with what is happening at this particular time. I want to make it very clear, I'm not ashamed of the fact that I do more identify with a more liberal point of view, in the way that liberal is identified in the sense of the political. I feel more liberal, and I don't feel that's a bad word. It says, where the Spirit of the Lord, there's liberty. That's the kind of liberal I'm talking about. The kind that the Spirit gives us that is liberal. So I want to just give you some ideas. I've put down some things. I'm going to try to stay with it and not get too personal into this idea. I'm more concerned. It's not easy to not project upon physical beings that play this out, but really that's not my idea. My idea is dealing with the unseen. The Bible says that what we deal with every day in the world is not flesh or blood, but it's powers and principalities in high places. Isn't that powerful? So the ego wants us to look at flesh and blood and project it on bodies. I'm more looking at policies. The administration as it is as a whole is, in my point of view, for what that's worth, is causing us to really have to rethink what kind of America and country we want to be. So I'm going to just share some ideas with you today. You can contemplate this, take it as you choose to take it. But I'd like to start out with Abraham Lincoln. He says, the dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate for the stormy present. Now this is 150 years ago during the Civil War, but these patterns go around and repeats itself again. So the dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate for the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise to the occasion. Remember our message, arise and shine? As our case is new, we must think anew and act anew. We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we shall save our country. So there is some kind of idea out there, and I kind of understand this, I think, as a human being, that we tend to want to go to the past. In the past, we were younger. In the past, we had more energy. In the past, there wasn't certain things going on. Maybe it was safer. I remember in the past not thinking a thing about going to Walmart or going to the movie theater or someone shooting me down somewhere. It didn't even enter my consciousness at all. So that's a good time to think about how that felt to not have that fear of this time that we're seeing and living through right now. But we have to be careful about how the ego uses this idea of going back into the past, because then we want to repeat what the past was. And you can't do that. It's forward, folks. It's always been forward. It's the law of evolution. It is the law of creationism. It is the law of consciousness, is ever to reach forward and to evolve, to change. There's nothing that's going to change. There'll always be change. So this idea that things were better, and I do this sometimes, because I find out my brain edits out everything that I really felt negative at the time in the past. It's always good. And then I stop and think, I wasn't that happy. I was dealing with stuff then, and things were not as happy as I remember it. So we have to watch that. So this whole idea of making America great again by past experience concerns me. Because to many of us, things were not better in the past. It was better for me if I suppressed aspects of who I was. If I allowed society and culture and religion to mold me into their likeness and image, yes, it was good. Yes, I looked like I was a part of the privileged race, being white and being male. But I exactly didn't fit the criteria of what a normal white male would be. So to be that, I had to suppress and buy into an image that was expected of me. It drove me to a lot of things. And I'm not complaining, but I'm explaining to you that it drove me to a place to believe that I had to be married, that I had to be a minister who had a wife, because I was pushed into that and pushed into that. I hope you hear that.
Yes, sir.
And it affected lives to make that choice. And in that choice, I was seen as normal. But inside, I was living a not normal life. What is normalcy? Normalcy. It's important to realize what is normal is being true to yourself. Being who you are is the only way to have any kind of a true whole relationship with yourself. There's nothing greater. When the teacher said, "Wilt thou be made whole?" He wasn't talking about perfection. He was talking about being all that you are innately. Unfortunately, there's that teaching out there that we choose such things as our orientations. I often said, so many people who say, I don't believe being gay is a choice. I believe you choose it. And I say to them, did you choose to be heterosexual. Well, no, I just am. And I said, there's a lot of us that are human beings that have different innate orientations, not just sexually, but in other areas, that do not fit the status quo. And this is the beauty of what America was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a melting pot, but it did not melt. It has not melted. And we have tried to suppress that through laws and through ordinances, but as we have suppressed it, we've entered into our pathology of being very toxic as a nation of people. And as you know, if you continue to put in toxicity into your system, it's going to show up outside you. You're going to see it in rashes and sores and breakouts and all kinds of things, because it's going to show up. And this is the time we're living, is a time in which there is no way we can continue to suppress down the pathologies of America, but it is emerging on the body politic. It is here for us to heal and to deal with, not to run from, but to embrace. And especially we that have been called or heard the call to this level of consciousness that we call New Thought, it is our time to arise to the occasion, to look at this from a spiritual point of view rather than just a human point of view. I'm going to quote Marianne Williamson. Now, Marianne Williamson is not new to me. Marianne Williamson, I met her in the 1980s when she was just beginning to teach a course in miracles in Denver, Colorado. I was flying to Denver every month from Indianapolis with a group, and that group started bringing me these little cassette tapes, and I started listening, and it was Marianne Williamson. So I was taken at that time because I needed the language of religion, but I needed a language that corrected my dogma. And A Course in Miracles was that for me. It wasn't a new language to hear about sin or Jesus or the Holy Spirit or heaven. That's the language that I knew. But it was a shift in my perception from a fear-based system to a love system. So I've followed her for all these years. I've attended her church when she was ministering Unity in Detroit. I don't know if many of you know that she was the pastor of Unity in Detroit, a very large, successful Unity church.
Spiritual leader.
Spiritual leader, yes. That's right. You went there, yeah, Detroit. But anyway, I would like more to listen to her message. Rather than just say, oh, she can't win, she can't do this and another, but she's contributing something to the collective political. And here's what she says: darkness cannot drive out darkness. And she's quoting Martin Luther King. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. We have to be so careful to not fall into the same thing that we believe we are against. There's a lot of you and myself, there's a lot of things we don't believe in, that we don't like, that's going on in the name of politics and whatever. But if we meet racism with more racism, we're going to explode racism. If we continue to meet something and start hating so-and-so and hating this, then we feed hate. Now, I know what a challenge it is from the human side to love things you don't agree with. That is where agape love comes in. Agape love, the highest form of all sacred spiritual love, is that love that is unconditional, not based upon what the five senses perceives or sees. If we go by that, we are drawn down into the lower aspects of our humanity where we can feel such things as dislike. Maybe hate's strong, but I don't know. Some seem to hate things a certain way. We need to call upon that part. We need to call it God, call it whatever you want to call it. But there is that divine aspect of ourself that is transcendent to all things that are going on based upon the world of appearance. We've got to find that place, that higher place. We can't sit here and just talk about things like Christ consciousness or let this mind be in me that was in Christ Jesus. We can't sit and just talk about that like it's our belief system. In New Thought, it's not about a new doctrine. It's not about a new religion. We don't need those things in America. We need people who are manifesting the attributes of the Christ in us and as us and through us. Remember when the old saying was, what would Jesus do? That's not bad. That's not so bad to ask in any situation. How would the master teacher Jesus look at this? Or if it's for you, Buddha, I don't care what you call it, but the enlightened one. That's all Christ means, the enlightened one. Buddha means the enlightened one. There's much enlightenment out there in many different forms. Don't get stuck on one form. I just happen to be more comfortable with the form of Jesus for me. But you have to choose what form that you want. It's the content. It's not the form. It's the content that makes the difference. So, we all have influence. We all have power. When we fail to use the power within our control, we surrender to the power of others to wield it for us. So this idea of I'm not political, I'm not getting involved, I never turn on the television, I don't listen to the mass media, and we feel proud about it, we're actually doing the very opposite. And we're not being a part of the power of transformation that is breaking through in the world today. We use the term co-creator. Are we co-creating what is trying to break through? The new earth, some call it, or the kingdom of God on earth, or that which is being on earth, done on earth as it is in heaven? What are we working with? Or are we working with the very thing we don't like? Hate is hate, and hate feeds upon itself. It's the small choices we make that over time direct the trajectory of our lives and state of our hearts. This is true at the individual level as well as it is as the collective choice. What kind of a country do we want? Remember, the dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate for the stormy present. When I was reading this, I thought how hard it is to imagine that Lincoln might have tweeted had he been president today. Such tweets as horse face, go back where you came from, and other similar sentiments tended to demonize and demean and divide us. It is a stormy present, Marianne says, that has received widespread attention since the first beginning of these debates that we are witnessing today. We've never dealt with a situation that we're in American history. This particular power that we are dealing with and principality is not just a politician, but it's a phenomenon. Don't underestimate the art and the craft of what has been going on for the last 3 years or so. It is well thought out and well planned. And you know, we can take good things and misuse them. When I first started observing, from my point of view, the dynamics of the president, I began to realize there's something there that's familiar to me. I couldn't get my finger on it, but there was something familiar to me, and I wondered what it was until I had learned that he had been under Norman Vincent Peale, the great father of positive thinking. Now that sounds good. We like positive thinking. But there are techniques that is learned in how to use the mind and how to use even thoughts to manipulate and to drive things in a certain direction. And this has been done by people all through history. And we have to be concerned how we use even the best of tools for certain intentions. I'm trying to say that carefully as I can. It's important that we understand that, here's an example. We are taught in New Thought a lot of the power of the mind. We're taught that we can create our destiny. We can create our life. We can call those things which are not as though they were. That's a big one. So when you can't meet ends meet and you can't make the rent, and you go to a prosperity meeting and says, you're a child of God and you are prosperous, and you start doing that and you start the affirmations that I am this and I am that when you're not. I know that sounds okay on a level, but not on another level. And I just want to bring this out that we can use these tools in different ways. A lot of what's going on today in the sense of spiritual techniques and things that are going on that are called New Age, New Thought, which are misnomers completely. Most anything that's really a good technique that's emerging today is ancient stuff. As far as I'm concerned, some of it could even have come beyond our world. You know, I'm open to that idea that we have been visited by higher beings. You know, we're comfortable talking about angels and archangels and things like that, where, you know, we've connected to dimensions of beings of wisdom that we did not see. But there's also those that are the prince of the air. That's what it says. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but the principalities of the air. And that's why you got to be careful about how you're using things that are coming through the air waves, through your television, through your computers. I don't know about you, but stuff's coming up on my computer that is invading my space that I didn't ask for. This computer has figured me out. It knows what I'm interested in. I may not buy it, but if I'm interested on it, it shows up all of a sudden. Are you with me? So there's a lot of things going on. People say, well, I don't turn my television on. I don't watch it. But it doesn't mean it's coming right through your house. Just go outside and look at a big pole somewhere. Some of these scary looking things that are out there that's transmitting all kinds of communications and satellites that are all around our planet that's beaming down information and checking out your information and your GPS and what's Sarah? Sarah, is that her name? Sarah? Yeah, oh my God, that's a scary one to me. I make Tim keep his in the office. I don't let it in the house. But I hear him in there saying, be quiet, shut up. She gets stubborn. She's getting moody.
That's Alexa.
There you go. The word air is interesting in the Bible. It's really the word pneuma or spirit. So there's a what's going on here is also going on in the heavens. And let it be done in heaven as is the earth means that we have to work in the unseen. And the part of things like that. So the ability to weaponize fear, tap into the lowest inclinations of human nature, reduce people to their most tribal-like instincts, is unprecedented in America's presidential history. The only way to encounter this dark psychic force of collectivized hatred is with equal, unprecedented moral uprising from every side of the political spectrum. Echoing these sentiments, President Carter said, "What is needed now more than ever is a leadership that steers us away from fear and fosters greater confidence in the inherent goodness of humanity." When Marianne, the few times she got to speak and say something and talk about how love could do this, that was just too much for him. The whole spiritual idea of the transformation of the soul of America, not the political, but the soul of America, is what needs to be looked at and has to be brought. Many pine and the likes of John McCain, some don't like him, whose moral courage compelled him to risk the wrath of his party. Leaders grounded in integrity, unwillingness to surrender principle for power of profit. Leaders with the humility to listen to their opponents rather than debase and dehumanize and diminish them. Most of all, leaders with courage to lay their own pride on the line for the sake of generations to come. Trust me, this is what needs to be happen on both sides. There are those that are selling out because they want to keep their status. They want to keep their benefits. They want to keep their power. And to do it, they are giving themselves away and not being true to their own inner convictions. I've heard too many say that you hear one thing in these interviews when they're on screen or the microphones in their face from what they say in private. This is not right. We need those who are being true. If you truly believe in something, whether you agree or disagree with me, I will honor you for what you truly believe if that's your innate belief in it. But if you're doing it with an agenda of some kind, then we need to revisit and readjust and balance your thoughts and what we are doing. Blaming the recent spate of mass shootings on mental illness, video games, or even white supremacy misses their deeper causes, confining responses to ineffective platitude and obsolete paradigms. In this instant, that American gun laws, written in a time of the right to bear arms, served to advance freedom, now kills more Americans than it protects. Arguing otherwise is denial in its purest form. Failing to call out such denial with fear of offsiding the NRA is cowardly. After all, many countries have mental illness, video games that are not even compared to the killings that are going on in America. They have these things without the killings and without the gun issues. Listen to this. Even compared to war-torn countries like Syria and Yemen, Americans are 4 times more likely to die from a bullet. So there's propaganda out there that people on the liberal side wants to take the guns. I have not met anybody that wants to just take guns away from people out of their house. Not at all. But these guns that are for war, I don't know what it's going to take to wake up. If Dayton does not wake you up that these police showed up within 30 seconds to a minute, and how fast those people were killed with those kind of rifles. What is the reason Those rifles were made for war. They were made to kill people quickly so that the enemy could not get them alive. And yet we want to fight for the rights for anybody to have those kind of weapons. Who in their right mind would? If you want a gun and know how to be responsible for it, if you want to get the right license, if you want to go through the right process, that's fine. But this Wild West mentality that's going on today is absolutely concerning me, that I have to be concerned to go to the movie theater. I got to be looking around to see where the exit is and to make sure nothing's going to happen. Now I can't walk through Walmart and think at any moment there could be something happen. This is a manipulation through fear. The Bible says men's hearts shall fail them for fear in these last days of this particular age. Gun laws are just one hard truth. So too other harsh realities must be confronted if America is to heal its social wounds, restore trust in the inherent goodness. But just as fear is contagious, so too is courage. And the path of moral courage, particularly in stormy times, distinguishes itself from others because it's the only path upon which the individual, organization, or nation cannot get lost. In an interview with Marianne Williamson, she says, democracy is not just about our rights, it's about our responsibilities. Think about it. Watching it play out on the screens may be comfortable. Saying I'm not political may be convenient, but let's be clear, choosing to say nothing for fear of backlash is in itself a choice, one that ultimately renders us implicate. The epidemic of cowardice that's going on undermines trust in the moral leadership as individuals and as a party. To quote Edmund Burke, the only thing necessary for triumph over evil is good men and women to do nothing. So here we are in an early part, but time goes quick, that in the next year and a half is going to be very interesting. But I think we have to realize, what part can we play as a community to further and empower people to be a part of this process and not sit on the sidelines watching this all go by. We can all do something. Yes, we can do something in the sense of help people get to the voting, and I'm for that, and we should do that. But the real work is going to be in consciousness. In your meditation time, in your contemplation time, in your spiritual community that you go to, we must realize that it is consciousness and energy before form. That it is cause that changes effects. And if we can work in that area, I think it's going to be very important to us. Let's look at immigration in America as a perfect example. There are those who are saying we've got to shut the doors. Now, except for African Americans and Native American Indians, our grandparents did not come here thinking they were going to Club Med. They came here for the same reason immigrants are coming here today. We tend to condemn. We go into the major condemnation of Mexicans, for instance. Think about it for the first of risking their lives coming over those border. Their coming not here is not a sweet journey. They're coming here because they cannot feed their children on $1.50 an hour. One initial blessing of the United States, which called for so much blessing, was that we blessed others. So karmically, we want to be real quick before we become mean-spirited toward immigration as a nation. I'm not saying we should not have immigration laws. Obviously we should. Absolutely. There is a right way to go through a process of bringing those into our country. I agree with that. I don't think any of us are saying that we should not have any laws and it's a free-for-all for anybody and everybody. But I think there is a more loving, proper way than the way it's being done. And I have to go into this thing of kids and cages and all of that that's going on today that is beyond our comprehension, most likely. Because that's been a part of blessing this country, we've had an attitude of blessing others. So once again, the consciousness that there is enough, because we know that the substance does not come out of material that is already created. If you believe in what the physical eyes tell you only, then you would say there's only so much out there. Well, there's only so much out there. And external resources are infinite, but internal resources are infinite within us. Okay. So, there is no democracy, no liberty, no powerful free society unless people are thinking for themselves. And the American mind has been easily deadened by buying some very cheap and easy slogans. Cheap and easy slogans are not necessarily true, so this idea that I lack because others gain is not true. Because the truth of the matter is, if you want to continue lack, close your hand. If you want to make sure to continue to lack, close your heart. If you want to make sure that the goodness comes to you, open your heart and your hands. A belief in lack is the problem once again if we feel that lack tempts us to see how darkness tempts us into further darkness. This is just important to me. So I want to close by looking at the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty has a plaque on it that is called the poem, and I wanted to share that with you. It's by Emma Lazarus. It's actually called The New Colossus, and it's a sonnet of American poet of the 19th century. It was written to raise money for the construction of a pedestal for the statue. In 1913, it was cast in bronze plaque and mounted on the side of the lower level. And here is the sonnet. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land, here at our sea-washed sunset gate shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome, her mild eyes command. The air-bridged arbor of the twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands, your stored pumps, she cries. With silent lips, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of our teeming shore. Send those, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Now, I heard the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever heard, and that is that this bring you your huddled masses and all of that was due to those who had something already to give. So it didn't mean everybody. In other words, it mostly meant the European people. Now, I'm of Irish descent, and I found out the Irish went through a horrible time of prejudice. If you read about it, they were treated horrible. There were signs put out, do not hire people from Ireland. They were seen as lowly. They came here because of the potato famine. And they did not have an easy time here, but they was able to become a part of the so-called privilege dynamics of this country, enough that they could go forward and become educated and part of the police and firemen and all of that still is very proud to have this, a lot of people from this particular culture and dynamics within it. It just bothers me that we try to eliminate certain people and justify why certain people should not have certain rights. The big thing in this whole election is going to be based on one word: socialism. You watch it. It's going to be the thing, it's already the thing that is being used today. And we have to be careful. And we want to educate ourselves enough to be intelligent about what is being said in the name of socialism. Now, I do get Social Security. How many get Social Security here? Most of you do. That makes you a part of a social system. How many's on social media? That's social. How many likes to be sociable? And be in a society of people that you love and whatever. I know that there is a slant on this idea that tries to slant us over toward communism and all of this kind of thing. I understand that part of it. But there's also a wonderful meaning that means everyone has the same right, such as the right to health insurance. Who in the world would want people not to have the right to health insurance? Now, I'm glad for my Social Security and my Blue Cross that I have. I've been very blessed that all the medical stuff that I've done, I've never paid much for it because of Social Security and Medicare. Yeah.
Is that socialism? Yes, it is.
It is.
You got it right.
And I'm glad for it. I appreciate it. And I worked for a lot of years to get my Social Security. I deserve it. It's not something being given to me by the government. It's something I invested in that I'm getting the benefits of in this time. So I would see no reason to not enjoy that little bit of help in that way. But to me, I just think that's all that is being said, is that everyone has a right. It's not a privilege, it's a right. In the wealthiest country of this world, how many of you agree that there's enough wealth in this world for everybody? This is ridiculous that it's all up there in the 1%, while the 99%, and a lot of the 99%, are doing 2 or 3 jobs and still cannot make ends meet. The average rent in this city, if you're going to live anywhere at all, is around $2,400 a month for an apartment. I remember my apartment was $60 a month. A nice apartment. We need to rethink our contributions and how that we can best think of the populace of the people rather than the me, me, me. So I'm not going to say a lot. I hope I didn't say too much. I just felt I had to put my voice out there into this and let you know that we need a tremendous change in the direction that things are going from my point of view. I can't say that I disagree with everything that is on the conservative side. I can't even tell you that I disagree with everything that Trump says. Once in a while, there's something that comes along and I go, I think I agree with that. Because there is truth that crosses the political lines today. But to see what I'm seeing today, I cannot keep my mouth shut. And I'm trying to say it from the position I've been given here as a spiritual leader to you. And again, I'm not trying to change you. I honor your political affiliation and where you are with things. And I'm saying to you, whether right or left, let's take time to reevaluate where we are and why we believe and think the way we do. I really get tired of hearing this assassination of people's character. I'm really tired of that. You know, I don't know what Hillary Clinton did because I wasn't there. But I hear these horrible things about them, and these people think they know this for true, but if you keep asking, where did you hear it? They heard it from somebody else. Where did they hear it? They heard it from somebody else. And I'm not saying what's true or not true. It's just that I've got to stop believing on things that is some kind of a perception that I have without any basis to it. I need to build my opinions and my ideas upon things that I myself have seen or heard, and I have found some kind of reference to it, rather than just a bunch of gossip and passing down a lot of things that's destroying people. We can do that with everybody. And I want to give a plug for Mayor Pete. Hallelujah for Pear. I'm telling you, he's just a smart guy. He's just a good one. I wish they'd take him more seriously and find a place for him. And I think they will. I think you're going to see him rise in his profession, this young man. And I'll tell you what, I'd like to see a woman. I'd like to see somebody younger. I think we have to stop the old white man club. Hallelujah. How many have seen Netflix The Family? You seen The Family?
Yes.
You should look at it. You should look at it. It's very important to tell you what's going on. And they're using Jesus and they're using all the Christian terminology. It sounds good, but it's a scary agenda that's going on and been going on a long time to mold policy in America in the name of using religion to do it. So here we are, folks, and we are showing up. Will you show up with me and say, I am here?
I am here.
Yes, and I am going to be involved in consciousness. I'm going to be involved in any way that I'm guided to help people to think for themselves. Don't be out there trying to convert people. I'm not in the converting business at all, but we do sometimes have to give new ideas for people to think about and an opportunity to readjust their thinking based upon information. Let us pray. Mother, Father, God, we thank you that you have put into our hands the power to co-create. We're not here to blame you for how things are, for you have given the attributes of yourself to us and in us to think, to create ideas, to create new systems, the freedom to use our power in ways that we can grow in love, or use our power to divide and conquer. We ask for the baptism of love to immerse us, every cell and every neuron of our mind and body, with this agape love. Help us to be able to look at those that we see in the physical realm and look beyond and realize that all attack is a call for love. All attack. So if you see someone attacking your ideas and your beliefs and your freedom, realize that that's coming from their pain. Their pain. The more I've looked back into the background of certain people and looked at where they came from and their family and their upraising, I can see why they are who they are. So we ask today the transformation of the human soul, individually as well as collectively. Let America be what it was brought forth to be, a place to embrace and to bring forth the unity of mankind. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity and vision that we have in moving forward.